birthday party. So it wasn't until Friday that I finally decided, it would be nice to see some people. So I invited a few people over. We ended up having a very nice time for my birthday. So, but thank you for the song. All right, so I think probably now is a good time to get started. All right. Yes. And I think what I'll do is, in order to get started, what I'll do, I'll apologize ahead of time that all of my usual technology is with Rachel. So I've been catapulted back to the beginning of the pandemic when all I had was my laptop and no camera and no microphone. And I mean, at least now I also have my big monitor. But so if you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll move closer to the computer because this microphone has a very short range. All right, so
I have a question.
Sure.
At 1:30 to 2:30, there's supposed to be a program, Soul Search Sustainability with Rabbi Rachel.
Oh, so that got changed to Soul Search with Rabbi Jim.
Okay.
Because Rabbi Rachel is in class on Mondays. She's doing her chaplaincy training in Roslindale. Yeah. She's doing it at Newbridge on the Charles. She's doing her chaplaincy training. And she has the didactic portion of that program is on Mondays, Thursdays, and maybe Friday mornings. So she's not available on Mondays. So I decided to come out of my my cocoon briefly to do this program. And then I'll go back into my cocoon and continue to transmogrify into the butterfly I will soon be. All right, so, but I thought what I would do is we would start the session today with this wonderful poem that Jean sent. At least, I think she must have sent it to more than just me.
No, just you.
Oh, just me, but I thought it was a beautiful poem. And so I thought I would share it with you and read it. And then that would be a nice way to begin our consideration of the topic. And this is really an experiment. We, with the help of Jean, and I don't know if you had other collaborators, Jean. Oh, hello, Mayim.
Hello.
You're calling from the other side of the world.
I am melting in Seattle here.
Hey, as opposed to melting in Boston, it's melting here also. So
yeah, it's like 104 here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's only it's 94 here. And my helpful weather app tells me that there's a heat advisory because it feels 106.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
I'm checking in. I'm going to go off camera. I have to run around and do a couple things, but I wanted to make sure to participate with you all.
Oh, great.
I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, I was.
Thank you, Sandy.
If you were going to be able to figure out the timing and blah blah blah. So that's
yeah.
I mean, not that I didn't think you could subtract 3 hours, but more just like would your schedule allow you to do it? So
yeah.
Great. All right.
How are you doing, Rabbi Jim? Are you hearing things better?
Not yet. They turned the machine on for me on Wednesday, and they will turn it on at an extremely low volume. And they tell me it'll take at least 6 months to get back to a level of sort of hearing. I'm not going to say normally. It's sort of like there was the like pre-COVID times and post-COVID times. We're not going back to normal. We're figuring out what the new normal is going to be. That's the way it's going to be with my hearing also. So it'll be very interesting to be in rehab for 6 months. I just hope that I can sing more or less in tune for most of it. Otherwise, everyone is going to suffer who has to listen to me sing. All right, good. So we're going to start with this beautiful poem by Kim Stafford. It is a poet whose name rings a bell, but I don't know if that's just because I knew someone else named Stafford. No, I was thinking it was a woman. I had a Kim Stafford in my head who was a woman. So it must be from another part of my life.
No, Rabbi Jim, his father, William Stafford, was also a poet.
Oh, right. A very well-known poet. Yes.
And Kim Stafford is his name, not Jim.
That's what I said. I did say Kim. I did say, at least I meant to say Kim, but maybe I'm so self-involved that I see Kim and sometimes I put my name in my phone as Jim and it autocorrects to Kim. And I'm like, I'm chopped liver. I will say that I used to have a vest just like this. It was stolen in Moscow. All right. So Equinox, Greta in Poland. Because they were rich and clever, all the ambassadors designed an echo chamber of glass and platitudes and took turns denying the future. And because they were old, only the next few years mattered. And so they pushed around tarnished words like chess pieces in their narrow grid. Progress, growth, stability. Words any child could see were obscene, were a screen obscuring catastrophe. So Greta stood and showed them what maturity looks like, what truth sounds like, what leadership feels like. And then she went home to change us. Excuse me 1 second, I'll be right back. I'll let you just, for 30 seconds or so, just sort of contemplate that. All right. So at this point, we are having a little bit of an experiment, which is that instead of assigning a single text, please watch this movie or read this article by today, we instead, thanks to Gene, we offered a whole range of materials to look at. Some of them articles, others of them videos. And so I don't know what this conversation will look like, because I am most used to sort of coming to a conversation like this with a common text. Not that everyone has read it or has looked at the movie, but at least we sort of, those who have all read the same thing. We're all starting from the same position. This is going to be a little different because everyone here will have looked at a different range of materials. And so I want to, just acknowledge that ahead of time. And so that's why I love having this poem, because it does give us at least one text that we have now in common. And so as we go around the room, I would invite people to share. And I think, you have choices. You can share something of what you learned from the materials you looked at on your own. You can just share your impression of this poem, or you can do both. I would ask you not to talk for too long, just because we have a fair number of people in the Zoom room, and then even more people in the room in Dinesh. So
Yes.
I'd like to hear from as many people as would like to talk. So why don't we start? We'll start in the Zoom room, and then we'll see how we do in the Dinesh room. I'm not sure, since I'm not sure what camera or microphone they're using, so I'm not sure how easy it'll be to manage that. Okay, so why don't we start with Sandy?
Okay, I'm questioning glass and platitudes, an echo chamber of glass and platitudes, and took turns denying the future.
Yeah.
What do you think that means?
It's a great question. It's a great question. And so I think what I'll do is, Sandy, do you have anything else to share, or would you like?
No, I just want,
Great.
I'd
Okay.
like to find out who the poet
I'm going
is.
to pretend that Sandy's great question is my great question. And so I open the floor to people who would like to make a response to that.
Just talk up, he doesn't see you.
It's what had been happening because we got, oh, am I muted?
All right, and what I'm going to do is I realize I'm going to stop the share because the people in Dinesh can only see. There we go. There we go. Okay.
No,
So if you need to see the poem in order to reflect on it, just let me know and I'm happy to put it back up on the screen. All right, so what is the poet getting at when he says an echo chamber of glass and platitudes in which they take turns denying the future?
which is precisely what had been happening in a lot of words. With
So Naomi, if that's you speaking to us, we can't hear you. So you're gonna have to move closer to the, or if it's Sean, I can't even tell who it is that's up there.
it's Naomi, you're right.
Okay.
I should not be muted at this
No,
point.
you're not muted. You're not muted. You're just muffled.
Okay. What we were getting from world leaders was basically platitude. Was basically, you know, the glass being reflective of their attitudes and really their unwillingness to confront the reality of what was happening. And what Greta Thunberg did was mobilize a different generation, which basically said, we are the future, not you, and we are going to have to live with the consequences of what you are not doing. So I don't know, Sandy, whether that answers your question, but that is my basic feeling about what you were getting at.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ann.
Well, I think that Greta gets right to the heart of the thing because she was so direct. I saw the movie and I was really overwhelmed by it. It was so good and I admired her so much. Her directness and her lack of taking trickery at all was just marvelous. So I think that I just really loved that. I don't know if anybody else saw the movie or what they got out of it.
Hello.
Hi, Ann.
Been on here a long time by myself and I don't know what happened.
Oh,
I
that's
tried it again, work.
Well, here you are. I'm glad you've joined us. And what I'll do instead of putting this up on the screen, because I don't think that really is, I'm going to put it in. So we were reading a poem, and we read a poem by a man named Kim Stafford, who, as it turns out, is the son. I didn't know this. Jean mentioned this was the son of William Stafford.
Oregon.
Yeah, right. He's an Oregon poet, exactly. So I just put it in the chat. So if you have a screen, you can look at the poem if you need to.
Okay.
Yeah. So great. Thank you, Ann. Yeah, I didn't really. I read the Time magazine article. I didn't look at a movie, but I just found her to be such a. I really didn't know anything about her other than, you know, she was on television and she was.
Kim is a man.
Kim is. I'm talking about Greta, honey.
Greta.
Greta is definitely not a man. So, and you know, her public persona, right? Her arguments with Trump, right? That kind of thing. But I didn't, you know, and I had heard somewhere along the line that she identified as being neuroatypical, right? Having Asperger's, but I didn't know how central that was to her story. And it's really, I found her story to be completely amazing. So yeah, go ahead, Ann.
Well, my brother had Asperger's and he was able to focus more than almost anybody I've ever known.
Yeah.
And I think that she showed that same ability to
Right.
cut out all the periphery and really get to the core of the matter.
Go ahead, Ann.
I saw Greta's programs on
the public television channel. There were 2 or 3 of them where she toured the US and the world. Then took a sailboat back to Europe for the UN or some kind of meeting.
Right. I mean, taking a sailboat across the Atlantic Ocean is really a that's a commitment to not flying right there. So.
Came to the US. That was the second time she came, I think. This time her father was with her.
Right.
A Michigas, that's what it is.
It is Michigas, that is for sure. Rita, would you like to share something of what you're thinking or what you learned? Rita, we can't hear you. You're talking, but I can't. Can other people hear Rita?
No.
Oh,
You're not.
I'm afraid.
Oh,
Can
there.
you hear me now? All
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
I'm afraid I did not read any of the articles, so I'm pretty much here to learn and to listen.
Great. Wonderful.
Me too.
You too, Elaine, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so Margaret, did you have something you'd like to share?
Yes, I joined Anne in watching the PBS series, and I thought that was quite remarkable. And also an adventure. I kind of like adventures.
Oh, yes.
Taking on a big adventure in doing this and getting directly to the heart of the matter, referring to Sandra about the glass and the icicles. You know, this is not the stuff that floats around and tickles, but it's right there in the middle. So I found the Wikipedia article almost overwhelmingly informative, but full of information that I didn't know. I thought I knew quite a bit about Greta, and I didn't. So there's lots more to learn, and I wish her luck. Now she's going back to being more a typical student.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah. Did anybody go to the rally on the Common of last year that the students brought in
My kid went.
with this?
Yeah,
So
my kid
because-
went to that. I was at a point where I decided that it would not be responsible for me to go into a big crowd.
Yeah, it was a big crowd, and
But Mike did go, and he said it was really
it
inspiring.
it's inspiring of younger people, pretty serious about all of this, and also having some fun. So,
Bottom line
And
is,
Prager, you said a few things. Would you like to add? Oh, I'm sorry. Is someone speaking in the other room there?
I was starting, but that's okay, go on.
Naomi, would you speaking? Go ahead, Naomi.
Okay, the whole issue is that the younger people are the ones who are going to be living after the years 2040 and 2050, when supposedly the whole thing comes to a cataclysmic state. And I would like to think that, let me use the word capitalist, for lack of a better one, who are running the economy at this point, aren't thinking about their grandchildren. They are thinking about their quarterly returns. And one of the nicer things is, as a result of a lot of the younger people's activism, seeing some of these quarterly returns tanking. I don't know whether these kids will become powerful enough, fast enough to prevent the kind of disasters that are likely to happen that we are beginning to see in Seattle, Portland, and so on. But what Greta Thunberg did was to provide a focus for the mobilization. Again, I don't know whether they're going to become powerful enough fast enough. And that's where, it's hard to conceive of the idea that the planet is in danger. A large thing to be able to wrap your head around. But that's what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I found so compelling about her is that she doesn't trade in the language of hope. right? She's not inspirational in that sense, right? What she inspires people to take action and to demonstrate and to march and all that sort of thing, but she doesn't have this sort of, you know, I'm going to tell you how terrible it is, and then I'm going to tell you how we're going to fix it. Right?
Well, she doesn't really know.
Well, who does? I mean, other than saying, you know, we have to come together and figure it out, and it's not her job, right? She's a, you know, at least in 2019, right? She was a 16-year-old kid who, as they said in the article, looked 12, right? And I don't know if she looks any older now, but you know, that she's doing her piece of it, right? And I just love that, right? Whether it was because of the way her brain works, or if it was, you know, sort of strategic one way or the other, right? She just was able to tell it like it is, and it's remarkable how she managed to get so many people's attention. You know, they had pictures of her in that article meeting with President Obama, meeting with Al Gore, meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau, right? The Pope, right? All these people. I mean, how did a 16-year-old kid from Stockholm, you know, get to meet all these people and influence them, right? That's pretty remarkable. And clearly none of this has gone to her head.
No.
I'd like to discuss the poem. If you could put it back on the screen just for a moment, I'll tell you the lines that I'm questioning.
Sure, go here. I'll put it up on the screen just for a minute, and then that way. Which ones are you interested in?
Glass and platitudes.
Oh, right. So we talked about that, Sandy. We said, right, that glass, right, is sort of, it has sort of the image of reflection, right? And so the people are just looking at themselves, right? They're not looking beyond their own narrow needs. And platitudes, right, is that they're just sort of echoing the boilerplate of we don't really need to deal with this, right?
Because they were rich and clever.
Right, right, because they're rich and clever, because they've been in leadership positions for years, and it's been very good for their bottom line, and they want things to remain stable, right? They want to pretend that the future is not going to happen, because as Naomi said, if you have a rapacious form of capitalism, right, that our current form of capitalism is, where all you care about is the quarterly report, right? You can't take into account what's going to happen, you know, in 5, 10, 15, 50 years, right? You can only worry about what's happening now. Right?
That's for all of us.
It's certainly true.
Absolutely.
Right. So you know, certainly at a personal level, right, there's a real value of being in the moment, right, and paying attention to the now. It's the only way we live, right? We can only live in the moment we're living. We can't spend too much time worrying about the past or freaking out about the future. And right, from an institutional societal perspective, right, we have to take into account what the future is going to bring, and we need to be prepared for it. I mean, from the level, right, of like, you know, we need to pay attention when an engineer tells us that there are major structural failings in a high-rise building in Miami. We can't just say, oh, that's too expensive to fix, because what happens when that engineer turns out to be right and the building collapses because no one dealt with it? I mean, right? And that is just a microcosm, right, of the climate problem, right? We've got people telling us that this is not sustainable and things are going to start collapsing. We start seeing it around us, right? What did Mayim say? 106, 104 in Seattle. I mean,
18 in Portland.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane.
Yep,
So,
it is. It's
yeah,
like unbelievable. And, is this really going to wake people up? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it
I
seems
mean, every time there's a climate disaster, I think, okay, people are finally going to wake up, and it
right.
hasn't quite happened.
Not yet. Not yet.
That's
So
fine.
let's see. So Susan, would you like to add your reflections?
Yes, I spent part of yesterday looking at the different links that Jean sent, and there was a lot of good information there.
Yes.
And the impression I got of Greta was she's a great speaker. She holds everyone's attention. She's so poised for her age and in the moment. And at the end of every speech, I got the impression that everybody was with her and they really admired what she had to say. But my concern is people approve of her in the moment, and they're very um, um, involved in what she wants to do. But I'm afraid that after the speech is over and everyone's gone their separate ways, they're just going to forget about it, and they're not going to keep in mind what she said. That's my concern. And I do notice that every year, like after Earth Day, there tends to be a lot more discussion about climate change. And I think that's a positive thing. And I'm just hoping that continues, especially in the light of what's going on now, like the heat waves and the building collapse and all of that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ann Prager.
Just wish there was a list of 10 things that everybody can do. Very simply put, like don't eat meat, don't fly, you know, Jean would be good at naming some other ones, but if that could, we could get some ad agency to take that up and blast it out at everybody and simplify, and people could take action rather than just,
That's my apartment.
it's too late.
Okay, excuse me, can I interrupt here for a couple of?
I can't hear that person.
Yeah, Naomi, could you move a little closer?
We can't.
So we can see you.
Speak louder. Speak louder.
All right, I am talking into a microphone.
Oh, okay.
Without shouting, but I have to ask at this point, who is we? Because this is not something that can be fixed in the United States alone, even though we are one of the major contributors to the. What we have to look at additionally is, for example, the Brazilian peasant who would like to have a couple of acres to farm. And apparently the only way Brazil can figure out to do this is by cutting down a couple of more acres in Amazon. Or the same peasant would like to make a little money getting gold out of the ground with the same solution. If I were a Chinese peasant, who has seen half his family starve at certain points historically, I would really be interested in any energy supply that could help. You can say the same thing of an Indian villager. You can wonder about if there were not war in the Middle East, how many people would become refugees simply because the water supply is drying up and there doesn't seem to be anything that anybody is willing to do about it. So when we talk about we are talking about a very narrow chunk of the solution.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And I think also, right, that there is that one of the uh, things that I think Greta Thunberg really helped us with, right, was the sense that we don't necessarily need to stand by helpless, right? That certainly, as she says, she says, I'm not asking everyone not to fly, right? If I, for instance, my cousin is getting married in September in California. I would love to be able to have the excuse to take a train cross country. It would be amazing to do that. The wedding is the day after Yom Kippur. So if I'm going to the wedding, I will be flying the day after Yom Kippur on Friday morning, and getting there. So I think, right, that there's sort of sense, right, that we can fall into a kind of fatalism, right? But I do think, right, that there are concrete actions that we, and I don't know if, Anne, you meant Americans or you meant people who live in Brookline or people who live at CCB, right? But whatever that the definition of we is, right, is that there are some concrete actions we can take to at least do our part not to make it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Anne. I muted you because of the phone call you were about to make, so you'll need to unmute. So Anne Prager, you're still muted.
Nobody can hear.
There you
If, I'm very sorry.
go. No problem.
If there were 5 or 10 things that could be done worldwide, then they could be personalized for different countries and different communities, and down to each person.
Yeah.
That sounds
Rabbi Jim, Rabbi Jim,
Yes, Ellen.
are you flying the day after Yom Kippur?
I haven't decided yet. Trying to figure it out.
Will you be here for Yom Kippur?
I will be here for Yom Kippur. Yep. That's definitely. I'm not
Will you be here for Yom Kippur?
I'm not going to take a cross country jaunt from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, as appealing as that might be. I am going to be here for the holidays. Go ahead, Mayim.
Well, I think to follow on what Anne was saying, I mean, Greta has really made impassioned calls to world leaders, and that's a wonderful thing because she's been able to get noticed. But I think her basic call is also for everybody needs to get on board. And there's so many small actions we can take. Like you were saying, changing our diet. I mean, that's a really small one, but every bit of green we can do, every bit of cooling we can do, every bit less energy we use. And it's so much about learning about these things and educating ourselves what we can do.
No, absolutely. I mean, I feel quite blessed that the house I'm in now, I don't know how much longer this is going to last, but because of the airflow where I live and the ventilation in the house, I'm able to be in the house during this heat wave and not turn on air conditioning. That's not going to last forever, right? Even in my house, it's not going to. But in places that are not well ventilated, the way my place is ventilated, right? People are going to need to use air conditioning because it's going to be a matter of do I use the energy or do I and keep myself healthy, or do I put myself at risk, right? We don't want people to put themselves at risk for this. So go ahead, Mayim.
Our conversation here today is part of this overall HSL sustainability thing. And I just want to report back that I live in 112, right? And with that renovation we went through, the building is so much better insulated and maintains this even temperature now.
Yep.
So I don't even use my air conditioning. I'll turn it on for like 10 minutes to just cool it off, and I almost never have to use the heat. It's amazing. So I'm so pleased with HSL overalls bringing this more into focus and trying to do the new building and stuff that they do in a much more sustainable and energy efficient way. They actually kind of blew it with 112 because, if that project went on from 2018 to 2020, they were planning it, 3, 4, 5 years ahead of time and didn't really we didn't know then some of the future technologies that are available now where we could have done much more efficient systems. So I'm hoping that, as HSL goes forward, they're going to be really future focused and use like the latest energy saving techniques that we've got.
Yes, I really hope so too. Absolutely. Carol, did you want to add anything to the conversation?
Today I saw an article, I think
Harvard had I saw two students, I think they were students from Harvard, holding signs for Harvard to divest from fossil fuels.
Yes,
That's progress.
yeah, that's been an ongoing process at Harvard for years, and based on what I see, the institution will not be doing that quickly if they're going to do it at all, which is a pity.
State of Maine pension fund just did that.
I'm sorry.
I think the state of Maine's pension fund just did exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I did not hear what Naomi said.
Naomi said that the state of Maine has divested, has made its pension fund divest from fossil fuels. So there is definitely progress on this thing. I just know that university endowments move very slowly on these issues. But yes, no, I think I mean, there's definitely a lot of youthful energy on this topic. Yeah, go ahead, Rita.
I commend what has been done. I'm sorry. I commend what has been done to 112 Center Street. But for those of us who do not live at 112, but rather live at 100 or live at 1550, we're spending a lot of money on our electricity power. In the summertime, I try not to turn out the air conditioning, but some of us do have breathing problems where we do need to
100%.
use. And then in the wintertime, we spend a lot of money in the electricity because of the shortened day. I spend a lot of time wasting water because if I want to get a cup of clean water, I have to wait sometimes 10 to 15 minutes using water that will go from hot to cold. So there are things that could be done here. And I think I talked to Jean some time ago that I would really like to be able to get some well-informed people to come here and let us know the most efficient resource company where we should put our dollar for the electricity.
Yeah.
Because I feel that with each one of us is spending considerable amount, and it would be very helpful if we would get the right company to provide our power.
Right. And it's a pity to waste all that water waiting for the water.
Ann has a question here. Ann is down in the room now. Do you see me?
Yep.
One of my pet peeves are plastic water bottles, the kind that you buy and throw away. If we cut down on those, it would help a little bit. Not wouldn't solve the problem, but it would help. And for Rita, you could get a Brita filter and fill it up and put it in your refrigerator. You'd have water anytime you want it.
Yeah, I do think that's a good point, right? If you have to let the water run for a while, then take more than just one glass of water, when the water finally does go cold, and sort of store that water in the fridge, and that way you'll be able to reduce the amount that you have to waste. And Mayim, and then I want to hear from Jean.
Water bottles is a good point. I mean, when I think about how many millions there are every day, it's just crazy. And I have a little tip for you. I take a plastic water bottle and I put a little bit of water in and tilt it and put it in my freezer. So I have this like a quarter or a third filled with ice, and then I put my water or iced tea in there, and I've got this cooled water bottle ready to go all the time. So whenever I do get a plastic water bottle, I just use them to death. But most of the time I have these other ones that are like permanent water bottles that I just keep using. But
what
those kind of little things add up. I mean, we're throwing away millions of water bottles every day.
that was the conversation about, that we were having last time, right? About all the plastics, or 2 times ago, right? The amount of plastic that is being produced, and is not really in any meaningful way recyclable. Yeah, go ahead, Jean.
In watching about Greta, I was really interested in making comparisons between her and Rachel Carson.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they had in common was that they both relied on the science. And Greta says over and over, don't listen to me, listen to the science. And that's really what the message of Rachel Carson was too, that the scientists had already, I see Margaret there.
Right.
It's not a question of belief. It's a question of data.
Right.
I mean, I think that one of the things that's really interesting about the Rachel Carson story, right, is the degree to which the people who were, most threatened by her and attacked her vociferously were other scientists, right? Because the scientific consensus that had emerged out of the war about DDT was also the data, right? And so it was really, this is where I think it gets complicated. There's one thing where on one hand, I'm completely, with you and with Greta about, following the data and not pretending the science doesn't exist. But it is actually a larger conversation, right? It's a conversation not ultimately about the science versus not science. It's really a conversation about values, right? What do we value? Do we value, do we value, it's not simplistic, right? Even in the context of DDT, it isn't simplistic, right? Do we value the capacity to get rid of cholera and malaria and other mosquito-borne diseases, right? Or do we value having birds and ecosystems, right? And how do we balance out those values, right? And in this case, right, the values, I think this is a simpler situation, right? Because do we value corporate profits, right? Or do we value the lives that our children are going to have when they have children in this world that's not is looking increasingly unlivable, even for people of our generation? Yeah, go ahead, Jean.
Last Saturday, I went to a meet and greet that our congressional representative Jake Auchincloss held on Harvard by the Tate Bakery, and he was just meeting constituents, and each person got to kind of share with him whatever their concern was. And I said I lived in Hebrew Senior Life, independent living, and that we were really interested in sustainability, and I wanted to know what he was doing about climate change, and just to let him know that his constituents cared about that issue.
Yeah.
And he claimed to support the Green New Deal, and also the infrastructure components that related to climate change. And he's also a sponsor of a bill to curb single-use plastic. So it was great to have a chance to talk to somebody in Congress whom I don't consider particularly progressive,
No,
but who on climate change seem to know what to say.
Right.
Has put in 2 thoughts. One, in terms of the amount of money.
Naomi, I'm having a really hard time hearing you.
Okay, in terms of the question about the amount of money we have to spend on our industry to keep warm in the winter, Jim is starting to rework the heating systems. But what I found was when I got my first electric bill, I went out and bought a space heater, and it immediately knocked $90 a month off my heating bill. Second thought, relative to the insecticides, DDT, there is nothing wrong with these when they are used as directed and as appropriate. The problem arose when we decided to use them week after week, year after year in inappropriate ways.
Yeah.
So there's nothing intrinsically wrong with some of this stuff if you use it when you are supposed to and how you are.
Yeah. I mean, it is an interesting question I have that question right now at my house because I have this terrible invasive weed and my upstairs neighbor wants to, destroy it with herbicide. And I want to, I want to dig it out of the ground root by root, because I have dogs and I have kids, and I want to be able to use the backyard, so it's, so I agree with you, right? And I'm also, I'm less, I find myself, leaning away from using chemicals if there's any reasonable alternative. But obviously sometimes there's not, and again, it becomes this sort of question. Like, yes, it would be great if we could avoid using the air conditioning, right? But if it's going to lead to breathing trouble or heat stroke, then you just use it. That's just you really don't have an option. So. All right, so Jean, other thoughts, because we're getting towards the end, and I had one other thing I wanted to say, but I want to hear from you first.
I think the thing that really impresses me about Greta is that she sees how absolutely urgent this is.
Yeah.
Oh, Jean, we lost you.
You're frozen, Jean. How could anybody freeze Jean? It's not very nice.
Well, this is what, this is like Zoom just attacks you. That's it. You're frozen.
Mhm. Oh, Jean, I'm gonna come over and melt you.
All right, hold on one second.
Okay,
Oh, there you're. Is she back, or did she disappear entirely?
gone completely away.
No, she's gone completely. All right, so hopefully that means that she realized there was a problem and she'll come back. There she comes.
Hi, are you there?
Yeah. Am I unfrozen?
You're
Yes.
unfrozen.
Mhm.
I was just saying how Greta's message, her central message is how urgent this is. And she's angry because other people are not feeling the same kind of urgency, that this is an existential threat and it's bigger than anything we've faced. And she'd like to see people in power and people, scientists, take it on as an urgent problem.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the things that I really was going to talk about, right? Which is I think is so interesting about Greta is that her is that her her Asperger's was what sort of forced the issue for her, right? Unlike most of us, and I do think that this is something that is really interesting and thought-provoking. Hello, Joe.
Hi.
Hi. I'm sorry that I was supposed to call you at 1:30, but I'm only calling you now, so I apologize. I've made a video of this program, so I will be able to send you by email. Do you have email? I forget.
No.
Okay. Well, in one way or the other, we can allow you to listen to the conversation, but now you can participate for the next 10 minutes or so.
Yes.
Hi, Florence. And so, but what I was saying about Greta Thunberg, Joe, is that she identifies as having Asperger's, and when her teacher, and I don't know if this was in any of the movies, so I apologize if this is repetition for you, but in the Time magazine article, it spoke about how Greta was, when she was 11 years old, there was a class, a lesson in school about climate change.
Yeah.
Once she heard the information about climate change from her teacher, she couldn't get it out of her mind, right? So that's sort of the shadow side of this missing concentration, that some people who are neuro atypical, um, you know, sometimes, you know, I'm also not, I'm an atypical neuro person, and you know, I sometimes can display remarkable, even frightening capacity for concentration, unless I'm scattered in a million directions at once. It's either or, you know, for me. So, but she couldn't get this off of her mind, right? Most of us, when we are presented with unpleasant information, right, even if it's very, very intense, right, we have the capacity to put our mind in another place, right, and worry about other things.
Yes.
So like, I have a math test tomorrow, right, or my sister is really annoying me, or whatever it is, right? But Greta couldn't do that, and she actually got to the point where she stopped eating, uh, and that's why she's so tiny, because she basically starved herself. And the way that she was able to, as her father put it, come back to life was by actually doing this thing that she does, right? Doing this climate strike. And this is why she's as healthy as she is now, right? Because she was able to address this. And I just found that very, very interesting and very inspiring on one hand, but also sort of recognizing that it's very.
Yeah, thank you for a wonderful time. Thank you for the lunch and thank you for the swimming. It was all.
Okay. You know, that it's that you know, there's real psychic pain, right? That spurred her to do this. And then,
If I excuse me, if I put Florence on mute, will I still be able to hear you?
no, yes, if I can mute you and you can still hear, Joe.
Yeah, well, mute me because I don't want the disturbance.
That's fine. Thank you, Joe. So, but just to sort of, you know, so that to also just sort of recognize, you know, what a remarkable and unusual person Greta Thunberg is, right? That most people in the world would not be able to do what she did, but most people in the world would not have been prompted to those actions to that extreme, because most of us don't stop eating because we understand that the planet is in danger, right? And so, and not that I want us to have a whole lot of necessarily, I don't want to let anyone off the hook for not addressing issues of climate change, right? But human beings tend to look, right, at the threats that are directly in front of them. And if the threat is far off in the distance, right, we tend not to take it quite as seriously. And it's only people like Greta who are, I would describe her, you know, someone called her Joan of Arc, right? She seems like a biblical prophet to me, right? She seems like somebody who has a message for the world. And like a biblical prophet, right, she has found a way to get this message, right, to the Pope, to presidents, to millions and millions and millions of people across the world. You know, and she's just this 16-year-old girl, or now 18, right? She's not well connected, right? She's not rich. She doesn't have any particular, you know, it's not like she's a musical talent or you know, an actor or anything like this. She's just a kid. So anyway, that's my thought about that. Go ahead, Jean.
I was really interested to read in the timepiece that one of her ancestors won a Nobel Prize
right
for research linking carbon dioxide and climate change. So that was an amazing connection.
Yeah.
I also find it amazing that her mother is a in-demand opera star in Europe, and now has to travel around Europe in trains rather than in planes to get to her.
There was a very humorous part of an interview with Greta where she was asked about that her mother was this international opera star, and now she was in Sweden and she was not traveling to Europe. And Greta said, "Oh, it doesn't matter. She can do musicals."
Once you've sung, Aida or Donna Ana, you're just very happy to do Oklahoma after that.
Right.
Oh boy. All right. Well, any final thoughts? Yeah, go ahead, Ellen. You have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear
I'll
me
just
now?
jump in. Oh,
We're good.
Are you going to be here for Yom Kippur?
Yes, I will be here for Yom Kippur. Don't worry, I'll be here.
Okay.
All right.
I love you calling Joan of Arc a prophet and the analogy, or Greta a prophet and the analogy to Joan of Arc. That's great. May she be remembered that way.
I have a feeling that she will be remembered as this prophet, because and like the biblical prophets, right? This is nothing that anybody, quote unquote, normal, right, would ever choose, right? The prophets in the Bible, a prophet is said to have a burden, right? There's something he or she is carrying, right? It's not, the gift of prophecy, right? It's really a burden. And this is what Greta was carrying, right? She was carrying this sense of doom about the climate. And the only way for her to discharge that was to make sure that the entire world heard it, starting with one person, the person that came to join her for her climate strike the second day, right? She started all by herself. The next day, one person came. In a couple of days, it was like 8 or 9 people. And then it became millions and millions and millions of people all across the globe. Just amazing. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts? All right. Thank you all very, very much.
Rabbi?
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling good. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much.
You recuperating well?
So far, so good. I'm gonna get my marching orders on Wednesday, and that will determine when I get back. So we'll see.
All right.
All right. Be well.
I was just going to say that this young girl became a true mensch at a very early age.
Very early. She's
Yeah.
really a remarkable person. So.
Well, I think maybe her grandfather had an early influence. It must have been like dinner table conversations.
No, who knows?
That says something to us as elders for, the conversations we have with our kids in our life.
Treat the children in your life, with great respect and with great with the understanding that they will inherit, right, the burdens that and it can be just a burden, right? We're just leaving them this planet that we've wrecked, right? Or it can be a burden where you've given them something to move along in their life with, right? A gift, then the gift of your knowledge, the gift of your curiosity, the gift of your interest in them, and
the gift of our belief that unfortunately we left them this mess. We're leaving them this mess, but they're the ones who are going to be able to do something. So great appreciation for their developing abilities and what they can do.
No, I'm always amazed at my children, and I'm sure most people are. But
yeah, may they surpass us
already.
They have to know and understand what is on our soul.
Yes, exactly. All right, Joe. It's great to hear.
All right.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Give Florence a hug for me.
Good to see you all. Thanks for